Truth and reconciliation means finding out the truth about the people whose unceded land you are living upon, taking the time to know about that culture and the history.
To know what's happened in the past and what's continuing to happen to Indigenous peoples in Canada helps you understand why Indigenous people have been struggling for so long.
I've learned about the residential schools and what they did. I've learned how lots of kids were just ripped away from their family without a choice, and it didn't sound very nice.
I think it's sad that they targeted the Indigenous people. I feel like we shouldn't have been treated like that.
They treated us differently because, well, we're a different skin color. Grandma or grandpa, it's hard for them to talk about it. That the ones that went, the ones that survived, all of it.
That era wasn't taught in our history books. Our children don't know. Our parents and grandparents never talked about it. But it's a trauma that is imprinted on our DNA.
I think that it's really important to learn about the past.
Just because it's dark, that they shouldn't be scared, that they should be open-minded and open-hearted to, like, come learn.
Learn not to joke around about our tradition and our way to be us Indigenous people.
To always be thankful for the culture that you have.
Reconciliation means to repair a relationship. It's a truth, it's a reality, it's a history that has happened. And yes, we cannot go back and change the past, but going forward, we can do better.
You were just listening to the voices there for the Siamthet School on Tsleil-Waututh Nation in BC. Reconciliation right at the core of what we're marking today on Parliament Hill, the 4th annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So welcome and thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. You will recognize this place. This is the west lawn of Parliament Hill. The west block is just to our left, center block straight ahead. All of this is on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory in downtown Ottawa, where this afternoon we'll hear from elders and residential school survivors telling their own stories in their own languages. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is a time to reflect on the horrific legacy of Canada's residential schools, which ripped Indigenous children from their families in an effort to eradicate their cultures. It's also a day for learning and healing and moving forward, all of us together. Education is a key component of that, something we'll focus on over the next 2.5 hours. So we expect today's national commemoration event to get underway in about 20 minutes from now. Alongside the speakers, there will be performances by First Nations, Inuit, and Métis artists. And Brett Forster of CBC Indigenous is out in the crowd as it gathers. So Brett, how are you? How does it feel right now?
Thanks, Adrienne. I'm well. I would say the mood out here is a little bit somber, which is understandable given the seriousness of the topic at hand. But there's also a sense of optimism and positivity and hope for the future as we see so many people, dozens gathering, all in orange shirts just on the west lawn of Parliament to my right. We're just waiting for the ceremony to begin. But in the meantime, I'm joined now by Roberta Hill, who is a board member of the Survivor Secretariat and survivor of the Mohawk Institute Residential School in Southern Ontario. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, when I see the crowds here, I think this is a good gathering.
And what goes through your mind when you see this many people all in orange coming here to show solidarity with people, survivors like yourself?
It gives me more hope for a better future when people understand the past, because for so long, Indigenous people have been put down, not understanding. Like, generally, Canadians did not understand. So there's always that negative stereotype of Indigenous people, and that's not the way it should be. You know, it just shouldn't. So I feel proud of who I am, and that we are going to stand up and we're going to walk together and we're going to go for, we're going to move towards a better future, especially for the children, the grandchildren.
Well, on that note, you'll often hear that truth needs to come before reconciliation. We're talking a lot about education. How much progress do you think the country has made in educating people about the truth of residential schools?
I think it's, there's a lot of education now, and it's not just in the general public. I see more information, the history being taught in schools, which is really a good thing because I listen to my grandchildren. And I know that they're being taught and they are having a better understanding too. They didn't know that their grandmother was in a residential school. And when they hear about it, they get a little bit tearful. But I just say, it'll never happen again. The history. You have to understand what happened and not let it happen again. And that's what I'm saying. And I think Canadians have a pretty good idea of moving forward in a better way, moving towards reconciliation. But it means all the truths have to come out.
And I know the Secretariat came to Ottawa with a message. What is that message, and what does Truth and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation mean for you?
We're here today because we want adequate funding. We have a 140-year history of 140-year history at the Mohawk Institute. And you can't just wipe that out in 3 years and say, well, you know what, we provided 3 years of funding, or we're going to cut you back, whatever. That's not the way you work towards reconciliation. You have to fund it appropriately so that we can move forward. We can do what we have to do to bring those children home.
All right, Roberta, I really want to thank you for sharing your thoughts with me today, and enjoy the ceremony. Adrienne, back to you.
Brett, thank you, and thanks to Roberta from us as well. I would really like to introduce all of you now to the person sitting beside me who will help guide us through today's conversation. We're talking about journalist, author, producer Tanya Talaga, who has just released a book and a documentary on her family's search for your family matriarch. You are also a member of the Fort William First Nation. So Tanya, thank you very much for being with us today. This is only the 4th National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I'm curious, as you've been traveling coast to coast to coast, talking with people, what has this day come to mean for them?
Today is really a day of reflection. It's a day where we get together with our families, we talk to each other, we check in, how are you doing? And we also reflect on our family members that didn't come home, not just from Indian residential schools, but also from Indian hospitals, also from tuberculosis sanitaria, also from asylums. We have so many truths that need to be told, and I know there's a lot of us, our families, sitting around today talking about those that we lost and remembering them, and also telling our little ones what Indian residential schools are, what they were. And we still have a long way to go to achieve equity in this country.
Well, to your point about a long way to go, this is one recommendation, one call to action of 94. That's not good, that it's only one.
No.
And yet, all across this country, you see the same orange shirts you see here today. So are you glass half full in this moment or glass half empty?
I have to be glass half full, because if I'm not, there is just no feelings of hope, really. The fact is that we've only had 13 calls to action out of 94 that have been completed since 2015. That's it's 9 years, it's almost 10 years. That's inexcusable, it's unacceptable, and we have to find a way to collectively move that forward, And I see the orange shirts and it makes me happy, but it's also performative. We need to go further.
Much further, and we will. And we'll talk more today. Thank you. This is obviously an important day, but as Tanya was alluding to, it's also can be a tough day for many people. And so we're going to show you this number a few times over the course of this day. For the National Indian Residential School Crisis Line, you can reach help 24 hours a day by calling 1-866-925-4419. So as we mentioned, we're going to hear personal stories today from survivors. They are at the heart of what this National Day is about. It was created in response to one of dozens of calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2015 after it heard from thousands of residential school survivors. So take a listen to call to action number 80, read out by the Commission's chair, Justice Marie Sinclair.
80. We call upon the federal government, in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples, to establish, as a statutory holiday, a national day for truth and reconciliation to honor survivors, their families, and communities, and ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process.
So that was Justice Murray Sinclair. He's not physically here in Ottawa today, but we know he's with everyone here in spirit, and everyone is with him as well, always will be. So the Commission laid out 94 calls to action in total aimed at furthering reconciliation. And they cover issues like child welfare, education, culture, and as Tanya Talaga explained, only 13 have been completed. Others are works in progress, but 18 haven't been started at all. Now you'll notice today one of the speakers at today's event will be Canada's very first Indigenous Governor-General, Mary Simon. And we're so grateful that you've joined us here today. Thank you for taking that time. I know that reconciliation has been at the core of your term. What is your sense of how this country is doing in that regard?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that, you know, today is a day of remembrance, never to forget what happened, and to make sure that that we don't forget, but that we move on. And I think today is an indication that a lot is happening. I see a lot of Indigenous people participating, a lot of other Canadians participating. So I see, I try and look at it very positively. I know that there's lots of challenges, and you know, this complex relationship happened over 150 years or maybe longer, and there are so many complexities to how to resolve some of these issues that are very much painful to Indigenous people. So when I go out across the country, I try and find out who these people are. Like, I don't know every Indigenous person or every Canadian, but I try and get to know them and for them to tell me their story so that I can better understand who they are. And for me, reconciliation is a lifelong journey. And the work that I've been doing for 3 years, I think, has been very positive for Canada as a country, because now I can see a lot more dialogue happening between people, which is really how you resolve issues. You know, like, there has to be this continuous dialogue. And I was thinking about it earlier, and when you look at the calls to action, these calls to action have some very difficult decisions that have to be made within those. And if there's going to be true partnership between Indigenous people and Canadians, then we have to be equal partners. So this imbalance is, I think, slowly changing, but we're not there yet.
Your Excellency, is there one of the calls to action that noodles around in your brain and is sort of asking you to deal with it urgently? Is there one that stands out for you?
Well, I think it's really about the health of our people. Mm-hmm. If our people are doing better, then things are changing. But if things don't change, whether they go forward or backwards, it's really not happening for the people on the ground. So I think the big gauge for me has been to see how well people are doing in remote regions, in different parts of the country. And for me, there is change, but people also are very frustrated with the slowness how things happen. And I think, but in the end, it will work if each party is committed to the process as equal partners. I think that's really a key part of what reconciliation is all about.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. We appreciate you spending time with us. Listen to you. So one of the things that you will no doubt see today here and in your home communities is a lot of orange, because of course today is also Orange Shirt Day. That is a movement that dates back to 2013. Students in schools across the country mark it, and that color has become a symbol of resilience, remembrance, and reconciliation. And it's all linked to this person, Phyllis Webstad. Her special bright orange shirt was taken away from her on her first day at residential school. That story, that is the story that sparked a movement. Well, CBC News is with her today in Nunavut. We will speak with her a little later in the program. And later tonight, of course, landmarks across Canada will light up orange, including the Peace Tower here in Ottawa, the CN Tower, the Calgary Tower, and Halifax's City Hall. So let's bring Tanya Talaga back in. We are getting a little closer. I think at this point, we're about 14 minutes away from the ceremony beginning. And I'm just wondering, something you said earlier is still rattling around in my head, and I think about it when we talk about the Peace Tower here, for example, being lit up in orange. Is that performative to you, or do you think that's substantive?
That's performative, but it's beautiful. I mean, it's going to look gorgeous, but we still need high schools in all of our communities. We still need equal access to health care and nurses and doctors. I mean, yes, it's going to be lovely to see that, but it's still performative. We need more concrete calls to actions actually fulfilled.
And I suppose the risk is always that people say, well, look at all the orange shirts.
Right. Yep, and they are beautiful. They're wonderful. And every year, I hope there are more people wearing more orange shirts, and I hope there are more people also raising their voices, saying, what about those high schools for all of the children in this country? What about clean running water? What about the treaties? What about equity? Hopefully, this is a building block, that the orange shirts will lead to more conversation about truth and about equity.
The Governor General was talking about health being one of the critical calls to action that she is eager to see. And I'm just pausing for a moment because this is an important part of what's about to happen here. We're about to see the Eagle staff and the Bentwood box.
That's right.
Before we do, why don't we just listen? So Tanya, as we get ready, we're about 6-ish minutes away from the start of the ceremony. The Eagle staff, the bentwood box, these are important moments. Can you tell me why the bentwood box is so important?
The box carries the stories of our survivors, you know. It's from British Columbia, from the British Columbia Nations, and the box holds testimony, it holds letters, it holds so much from the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It sat at the commission, it collected our truths, and that's the importance of today, learning our truths, sharing our stories, and coming together and telling Canada, this is what happened here.
Thank you. Let's keep listening. Tanya, as people watch today, is there something they should be watching for, or someone?
They should be watching for survivors. They should be listening to the stories they're going to hear, the snippets, the realities of lived experience, and the wisdom to know how to go forward. It's contained in the 94 calls, yes, but we heard Roberta Hill, a survivor of the Mush Hole, the Mohawk Institute, talk about the need to find our family members still and how we need sustainable funding to go forward in order to do that. Residential schools existed in this country for more than 100 years, yet we've only had 3 years of sustainable funding to find our relations, all of our relations. And so it would be wonderful if we had a politician here, a government leader who would say, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to give you sustainable funding. We're not going to cut it off. It's not a program that's going to end in 1 year, as our current funding will, or that it's going to end in 3 years. It has to be consistent and strong in order to repair the heart of this country.
You know, when you're talking about finding family members, I think about you, and you dedicated a lot of time to finding out the stories of your family matriarch, and it was devastating when you did.
It was, yeah. But we all have those stories. Every single First Nation, Métis, and Inuit family has someone, they've heard of someone who didn't come home from Indian residential schools, from Indian hospitals, from tuberculosis sanatoriums or asylums. We all share parts of that same story. And that's why it's important we find those family members and we say their names. We have to say their names and remember them. Every child matters. That is the slogan. That is what we hear all the time. Canada has to make sure that is true.
I think about a few years ago, that number 215, the number of the suspected unmarked graves found at Kamloops, Dishrupmek, and Kamloops Indian Residential School. A lot of people, even today, in the last few days, have said, what happened there? Why don't we know the full story yet? How do we explain that?
The community calls the 215 Lestwewe, the missing, the children that did not come home. The community to Kamloops Dishrupma, they are still working on dealing with their community, telling their community, finding the children, and it's intimate. Before, everything got blown up in the press. And now they are dealing with so much fallout, so much denialism, so many people saying terrible things like, quote unquote, show me where the bodies are. I mean, honestly, really? You think that the community is going to do that? Of course not. This is community-led, and they will persevere.
In their own time. All right, Tanya, thank you. So the program here,
Hi everyone.
Remembering the Children, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It's about to begin. They're doing some housekeeping details on the stage there, so let us offer some for you. American Sign Language interpretation is available through streaming on cbcnews.ca, CBC Gem, and on the CBC News app. And another reminder that there is support for anyone in need. This can be a tough day for many people. So again, the 24-hour National Indian Residential School Crisis Line can be reached at 1-866-925-4419. And this one's really important as well. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to endeavor to inject as little as possible. You will hear some of the speakers speaking in Indigenous languages. They've told us it is important for us to hear those languages, important for them to be spoken, so we will not be translating them. An English summary is expected to be given afterwards. You may see some descriptions on the bottom of your screen, but that will be it. So here now is the National Commemorative Gathering produced by the Aboriginal People's Television Network and the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. Let's have a listen.
Miigwech boys. Chimiigwech. Kwe kakina. Bonjour tout le monde.
Hello, everybody.
Greetings to everyone.
c'est Claudette.
What a beautiful day it is today. Connie Mitch Kijigun, Kinun Edishnakaz, Kitagan Zibi, Donjaban. Mon nom c'est Claudette Commanda.
My name is Claudette Commanda.
Je suis une femme algonquienne de la Première
I'm
Nation.
an Algonquin of the First Nation.
Pijajikoma Anishinaabe. Pijajikoma Anishinaabe. Bienvenue ici à la terre
Welcome to the unceded territory of our ancestors, the Algonquin Nation.
Welcome. On behalf of the nation that I come from, the Algonquin Nation, and the Algonquin survivors who are in the audience, and our survivors that are in each of their communities, we, the people of this territory, we acknowledge you. You are our relatives, and we welcome you into this beautiful homeland of our people, the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Omamawenini. We welcome you into this beautiful unsurrendered homeland of our ancestors. So welcome, my relatives. We come together with that one heart, that one mind, one spirit, and that one voice to give honor and to give thanks to our Creator as we say, Chimigwech Kishiminado, Kichimigwech Kinakego. As we acknowledge our ancestors and we thank them for their love and their prayer that they give us each and every day. We thank the Creator for His blessing. And the blessing that we have before here are the survivors of Indian residential schools. And we thank you, Creator. We thank you for the love that you have for us. We thank you for the strength that you give us each and every day. We thank you, Creator, for the healing that you bring forth through your love. And may we show that respect and that love and that kindness to all survivors who are here today, to all survivors from coast to coast in this country called Canada, and to those children who did not make it home, and those that are here, Creator, we thank you. We thank you for bringing us together. And Creator, it is my prayer for all who are here. Love, kindness, hope, and let us remember the children today and tomorrow. And as we bring forth healing, let us thank the Creator for giving us that strength and even those tears that He has blessed us with. Chimigwech, Creator. We thank you, Creator. We thank you, ancestors, for hearing this beautiful prayer from all of our hearts. Miigwech. Thank you, people. I love you all. Miigwech.
Bonjour et bienvenue.
Hello and welcome.
Aujourd'hui, c'est la journée nationale de la
Today
vérité.
is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation.
Merci, Aînée Claudette
And
Commanda.
thank you, Elder
Pour la
Claudette
prière,
Commanda,
bien sûr.
for this opening prayer.
Aînée Commanda est algonquin.
Elder Commanda is Algonquin from Kitiban Zibi, Anishinaabe.
Je m'appelle Daniel Rochette.
My name is Daniel
Je suis
Rochette.
Huron-Wendat.
I am a Huron-Wendat and Quebec.
Earl Witness Siga Arsenault, und it's Kapuni. Kinanas Kumtunawan, Uta, Epe Kanawapa Tamegoma, Kazaga Step Bike Eta, Kakiskata to check Awasag Uche, Katamik National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We are coming to you live from the unceded, unsurrendered territory Kwagumakandoago Taskiwawa and Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, also known as Capitol Hill. This is the 4th year that Canada marks the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day.
Nous avons commencé la cérémonie avec les chanteurs.
We started with the Eagle River
Et lorsque
Singers,
les membres de
and when
notre
the
cortège
members
d'ouverture ont
of the
témoigné,
opening
Ils ont apporté avec eux un
witnessed,
objet
they
très
brought with
spécial.
them a very special
Une boîte de bois
box
fabriquée à la main
of wood made
pour
by
la commission
hand
de la vérité et de la
for the
réconciliation.
Commission of the
Par
Truth and
l'artiste de la
Reconciliation by the Salish Coast artist Luc Masden.
Cette boîte était présente
This
à toutes les
box was
événements
present at
de
all
la
the TRC
CBC.
events,
L'artiste
and Luke, the artist who made it, is here with us today.
à l'intérieur de la boîte
In the box,
se trouvent des objets sacrés,
there are sacred
chacun
objects,
symbolisant la
each one
guérison et
is
l'espoir.
symbolizing healing and hope. The faces reflect the different cultures of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, who are survivors of the residential schools.
Not only on this day, moikat sa notes, but every day, tatuki sakao, we ask you to acknowledge and honor residential school survivors. And the children who never made it home. While it may seem like this is a time in Canada's history was a long time ago, we have people right here who attended these schools. These are difficult stories to hear and listen to. Ay man, but they were even more difficult to live. Ay wakay maneogo. We ask parents to try to imagine if it was their children, but we also should be asking, imagine if it was your mom or your dad, or your grandparents, your Lola, your Baba, or your Guido.
Vous n'avez peut-être pas entendu parler de cela.
You may not have heard about this at school, but we thank you for joining us and for learning the truth from survivors here today.
Aujourd'hui. Si vous nous rejoignez en direct,
And if you're joining us live on TV or on the internet, we welcome you into the circle.
Yes, welcome to the circle. Today, today we are going to hear First Nations, Métis, Inuit residential school survivors. When our families were forced into those institutions, two things happened. Their hair was cut short and they were beaten if they spoke their languages. But our language, typical muta, is survived. They did not succeed. Now we are in the process of reclaiming our original words.
en se réappropriant nos langues.
By reclaiming our
Nous
languages,
avons beaucoup de travail à faire pour nous
we are
rétablir.
reclaiming ourselves, but we still have a lot of work to do to recover and build as Indigenous
Nous remettons encore
nations.
des pensionnats, des
We're still recovering from resident schools, day schools, the 60 scoop,
et du système de la protection de la jeunesse.
and the child welfare
This day
system.
is for the survivors. We hope you take this time to reflect, remember, listen, and learn. Umakisa ka uche, kapaspihi chik. Epaksay tamag, kamamtanay tamig, kakiskieg, kanintutabeg, ekwa, kakiskiwa sueg, ekwa, anma, instutabun, kasunameg, kitsawa kanak, ekwa, kiwichewa kanak, tapto, tatawaw, uta.
Nous vous proposons également des prestations musicales et des invités.
We will also be presenting musical performances, special guests.
Nenaskom tin. Ya pachita agoma nei hawewun. I'm honored that our languages are being welcomed into the circle as well. You'll hear a lot of different Indigenous languages spoken on the stage today. When I speak Cree, it's healing. I even get to bring my language to Hockey Night in Canada. We'd like to acknowledge all the residential school survivors in the audience, along with the health support workers who are here today. If you could all please stand or give a wave to be recognized. It is so important to sit and listen to the oral histories we are hearing today. It is one of the ways our ancestors passed on information to one another. And that practice, that practice continues in the present.
Et comme toute histoire orale, il est important de l'entendre.
And like any oral history, it's important to hear it many times and in different
Madeleine
ways.
Basile n'avait que 6 ans.
At the tender age of 6 years old, Madeleine Basile was taken away and forced to attend a Blue Point Indian residential school, where she spent the next 10 years. Despite this, she did not lose her language, and she worked for a decade in radio in the Atikamekw language. Madeleine also studied social work and currently works with the Atikamekw Nation Council to manage the residential school health support program, where she and her team provide emotional and cultural support service.
Elle a aussi été membre du comité
She's also served as a member of the National Survivor Committee of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada.
du Canada. Please welcome Madeleine Basile.
Kwekwe, bonjour.
Kwekwe, hello.
Mon nom est
My name is Madeleine Basile,
de la nation
and I'm from the Atikamekw Nation at Wimutashi in Quebec.
C'est un grand honneur pour
It
moi,
is a great honor for me,
en ce bref instant,
in this brief moment,
rencontrer,
to meet
de vous
with you
témoigner d'un
and to
fait
tell you about a fact
par des milliers d'enfants.
that thousands of Indigenous children have experienced.
Laissez-moi vous raconter
Let me
mon expérience
tell you
d'enfant
about my
de
experience as a child in
Le
a
gouvernement
Indian boarding
fédéral
school. The federal government
a décidé,
decided,
sans consulter,
without consulting my family,
de prendre en charge
to take over
mon éducation
my education
ainsi que celui
and that
tant d'enfants.
of so many other children.
J'ai passé
I spent 10 years behind residential schools wall,
à apprendre une langue,
learning a language
une culture
and a culture
qui m'était inconnue.
that were unknown to me.
Ça m'a laissé plein de cicatrices,
It left me with a lot of scars,
entre autres
including anger,
le sentiment de rejet,
feelings of rejection,
crise d'identité.
an identity crisis.
Qui suis-je?
Who am I?
C'est une question.
That is a question that has haunted me for years
Je ne savais pas qui
because I didn't know who I was.
Maintenant,
Now,
j'apprends à me connaître.
I am getting to know myself.
Et cette démarche
And this process
m'aide à surmonter
helps me
la peur
overcome
d'être
the
moi-même.
fear of being myself.
Moi, ma famille
Myself, my family,
et toute nation autochtone
and every Indigenous nation
sommes en train d'écrire
are writing
l'histoire,
the history
celle des pensionnats indiens.
of Canada's residential schools.
Je pleure mon enfance perdue
I mourn my lost childhood
auprès des miens,
among my people,
mes parents,
my parents,
mes grands-parents,
my grandparents,
ma famille.
my family.
Votre absence
Your absence during my childhood
n'ont fait qu'agrandir
has only increased
mon amour pour
my love for you.
Je vous aime.
I love you.
Le thème d'aujourd'hui est un appel à tous.
Today's theme is a call to all.
Souvenons-nous des enfants.
Let's remember the children.
Beaucoup d'enfants
Many
ne sont jamais
of those children
retournés à la maison.
never returned home.
Honorons leur mémoire.
Let's honor their memories.
Ne les oublions pas.
Let's not forget them.
C'est à eux
It is for
que
them
je dédie cette journée.
that I dedicate this day.
Ces enfants qu'on ne connaît pas,
These children
mais
whom we do not know,
si présents
but
dans nos
who are
mémoires
so
du
present
cœur.
in our heart's memory.
L'espoir d'une vie meilleure
The hope of a better life
m'a toujours inspiré.
has always inspired me.
Dès aujourd'hui,
From this day,
vers une harmonie mutuelle,
forward towards mutual harmony,
entretenons ensemble
let's keep
ce feu sacré
this sacred fire
de la vie.
of
Écoutez.
life alive together.
Miigwech. Merci.
Thank you.
Merci, Madeleine.
Thank you, Madeleine.
C'est très beau de voir une mer de
It's so
chandail
good
orange et de se
to
rappeler
see
pourquoi nous sommes
a sea of orange shirts and remember
Plusieurs personnes
why
savent
we are
que les
here
enfants des
today.
Premières Nations,
A lot of
les
people
Métis,
know that
été
First
amenés
Nations
dans
and
les
Métis children
Les Inuits,
were taken away to residential
Joan
schools,
Dicker,
but so
avec
were
12 ans,
Inuit
lorsqu'elle a
children.
quitté son foyer
Joan
et sa
Dicker
famille
was 12
pour
years old
fréquenter
when she left her
le
home
à Northwest
and family to
River, au
attend a
Labrador.
residential school in
Joan
Northwest
a quand
River,
même réussi
Labrador.
à conserver sa
But
langue
Joan
maternelle
was able to hold on unto her first language of Inuk.
Tawagamiano, here to share her story from Nain, Labrador, na natsiabut is Joan Dicker.
Ullusiak ilunasi. Khuyalivunga maana mani khataurama pimmaritumat ulluk ullumi. Ilitsilu attutau khatau simayusi at satau khatta simayut ilinniavinnut iliyau khatta simayunut. Piuyulittuk ullumi ilitariyau khatta limmattamanna Tayauyuk National Truth Amma Reconciliation Ullumi September 30 mi. Joan Dicker Yuvunga Ati Usi Lautara Martin Naini Miunguvunga Nunat Sevumi Labradorimi. Iliniarigama Angikarani Nainimi Aulariakalaukunga Northwest River Remote Iliniavinganut Taunani 1973 minute 1977 ni munut. Suel fanik yari khatlunga aulalaw kunga taitsumani. Sulu khwatsang di taulaw kunga. Allah khanimmalaw kunga kapyaso khattasunga makhunik vuginik. Taina tuyumiu vigiya khalautara paivitseak asyangulautuk angikaranit. Sulu suatuinnak ingraditauratta. Suliat satatitauratta sivanik nillituammat. Piungitu khattalautuk pinniatauligatta asinginnut paikatauyunut allattaunanimiunut Northwest Riverimi. Tamanna kappiari khattalautara. Tavatualli hauyimavunga asingit unuttuit piungiloamik aanitau khattasimayuvinit. Yarikittuusutik sulu tallimakatuinasutik yarikhatlutik at saataw khatlauttut ananakkuminit atatakkumininlo. Ay para Sam mani khatigiyara ullumi taimat sainak aularia khasimalautuk angikaminit nainimit ilinniaviliasuni Northwest Riverimi. Ananara inurun naisi mayuk February uvani yarimi 84 nik yari khatluni. Ammataimat sainak tiuyawlautuk tallimanik yari khatuinasuni angikaminit iliyawsluni boarding school limut nainimi. Tusasi mavunga unuttunik unikkata usimayunik kitsanattunik aannianattunillo. At saataw khattasimayunit nunanginnit amma asinginnik nunalinnik nakitsuatuinnak. Tainna boarding school nainimi piyaw sa sinalautuk mahuni yariyulittuni. Piyaw kami Inuit tamani khattalautut umatingit ukhillit tau simalittut takut saulurun naimat nunattini. Uvlumi ikhaumat tau ligivurut khanuk piyau khattalau mangata ilinniavilia tiluta tuyummiu vimmiisuta surusiutluta. Aanianattu galuatiluru suli inurasuatsia khattavurut inuusikhatsialuta piuyumik. Ilik husiriyavut ukhalausivullu pimmarittut uvlumimut uvattinut ikayutsiamat inutsianguniaratta suli inuuratta. Ilinniaviliasimannivut tuyummiuluta angikavut himahattalurit attuinisimavuk unuttunik inunnik hitungavut tinillu allaat ingutattinik. Unuttuit allaat ukhalausimminik asiuisimayut. Uvangali asiuisimangilanga at suwinasunga ikhaumarasoakhattalaurama. Kisiani inuktitut ukhalasungulaukunga suusikulutlunga khallunatitut ukhalareasilaukunga ilinniareasiga makisiani. Ilinniareasigama Northwest Riverimi amma asiuyittailiga soalautara ukhausiga inuktitut. Ilannakalu tamani khatauyut inuktitut ingingoa khattalaukurut inuktitut. Uvlumi piyuivunga inuktitut ukhalasungurama. Ilun nanginnik tukisitsiasunga. Ilinniatitsi khattalaukunga inuktitut surusinnut ilinniavimmi angikharani nainimi 38 inik yarinik ilinniatitsi yuutlunga. Nakumik uvannik tusak hauratsi unikkaralaatillunga. Tutsiutivatsi ilunnasi. Saimatitauniakhusituk. Taikkoa surusiakhulait angikhalautsimanngitut ananakkuminut ataatakkuminullu. Ikhaumalaullavut. Siunniutitausimayut ummatingit tigumiallugit. Aanaulikhunga manna. Taimaaraaluk aannianattualummik at saataullunga ingutakkanik. Innuuqajakhuungilanga. Una inuktitut allasimayara every child matters. Ilunnatik suusiit ikkhanattut. Kuutip ilarilisi ilunnasi nakummik.
Hi, Joan, kita kage peak squad. Tapwe, pekato sidobuta. It's a beautiful day here in Algonquin territory. Thank you for joining us here at Tatamskat Nawa, watching live on TV and online.
Cette prochaine artiste métisse de la Rivière-Rouge et franco-manitobaine est lauréate de...
This next performer is a Juno Award
tourte printanière.
Winning
Please welcome
Franco-Manitobaine
Turenne.
Red River Métis artist. Do
Merci.
welcome Adrienne.
Hi, my name is
Turenne.
Andrina Turenne, and it's an honor for me to be here today. Je suis native de la Rivière-Rouge et je vous partage aujourd'hui une chanson qui s'appelle Tourte printanière. C'est une chanson inspirée par un petit passage dans un livre de chez nous qui s'appelle L'espace de Louis Goulet. Un très beau livre. Cette chanson parle des grandes migrations de cette tourte qui envahissait la prairie, mais qui ultimement est devenue extincte à la fin du 19e siècle. Cette chanson célèbre l'importance de la tradition orale.
At the end of the 19th century, and it celebrates the importance of the oral tradition.
Au temps de la prairie, grand-père nous racontait que parmi les oiseaux des plaines, les tourtes printanières
In prairie days, grandfather used to
Et d'une année à l'autre,
And from one year to the next,
elles ont toutes disparu.
they all disappeared.
Et moi, petit enfant, oh, mais j'attendais le jour où toutes ces tourtes feraient leur grand retour. Mais elles se sont envolées, elles ne sont pas revenues. Et d'une année à l'autre, elles ont toutes disparu. Et là, elles ne sont que légendes, ces tourtes vagabondes. Elles n'existent que dans les histoires que nos chers aînés nous racontent. Elles se sont envolées, elles ne sont pas revenues. Et d'une année à l'autre, elles ont toutes disparu. Et d'une année à l'autre, les tours printanières ont disparu.
Andrina Turenne, merci beaucoup pour cette belle chanson.
Andrina Turenne, thank you very much for this wonderful performance.
La directrice générale
From the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation,
de la rafle des années
Stephanie Scott is a 60th school survivor from Roseau River, Anishinaabe,
par le traité
First Nation in Treaty 1 territory. Do welcome Stephanie Scott.
Bonjour. Good afternoon, Miskwanakwatakwe Indishnakas, Wabashishi Dodem. My family is from Roseau River, Anishinaabe First Nation. I am the daughter of a survivor, and I am a 60 Scoop survivor. I am the next generation that was taken away from their family and nation. I say miigwech to Elder Commanda for her prayer, and to the Algonquin Nation for welcoming us into their territory. And I welcome all leadership and honored guests that are with us today. We cannot do this work without you. And to the survivors of residential schools, we are here today because of you, because of the hard truths that you have shared, because of your courage. I say Chi Miigwech today because it is a powerful day. I have heard survivors say, every day should be a day for truth and a day for action. Every day we should honor the survivors and all those little ones who died or went missing and did not return to the arms of their loved ones. We should think about what their lives can teach us about the truth of this country, and every day we should be asking ourselves what we can do as witnesses to this truth. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is an opportunity to welcome more and more people into the conversation and I am grateful for that. If you're joining us for the very first time, welcome. We're happy to have you with us as part of this journey, and we hope that you will bring others along with you. Learn the facts about the residential schools from the people who lived it. Respect the survivors, respect their language, amplify their voices, and never restrict what they need to share, because there is a powerful message in those teachings. And call out the deniers, the people who still don't want to face the truth, the people who want to replace facts with falsehoods. And call out all levels of government and the churches to continue to support the work of truth, to ensure we find our missing children, because we, as First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people, should not have to fight and lobby for funding in our own lands. The residential school system was intended to destroy us, and they did not succeed. Our children suffered in those institutions, and to this day their spirits call out to all of us to be remembered and to be honored. The NCTR was born from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, and we have a sacred responsibility to help identify all the children who never came home. We have a powerful symbol of those truths today. The National Student Memorial Register was created to remember and honor the children who never came home. The names in the registry are all the children identified through the records and thousands of statements in the NCTR's care. Through ceremony, traditional knowledge keepers, they guided us in creating this memorial cloth, which inscribes the names of young children from over 140 residential schools. There are more than 4,000 students on the registry, and through NCTR research, the team has been able to find 400 additional names this year, 400 names. We are working closely with community and family members to share the details of those records and those lives lost. While the cloth is walked in, we are asking our guests to help honor the children and to show their commitment to truth and reconciliation. The moccasins and shoes represent the children whose stories have not been told and whose lives and spirits we honor today. I say miigwech to all of you for being here. Miigwech, thank you.
Je voudrais maintenant inviter son
I would
Excellence,
like
la
to
très honorable
now
Mary Simon,
invite Her Excellency,
Gouverneur
the
général
Right
du Canada,
Honorable Mary
à prendre
Simon,
la parole.
Governor General of Canada, to take the floor.
Good afternoon. Bonjour. Ilunasi, Tungasugitsi, innate elders, elder commander, survivors, Indigenous leaders, and all other distinguished guests. First, I want to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, who have cared for this land for thousands of years. Today, we commemorate the thousands of lives forever lost or traumatically impacted by the residential school system. Aujourd'hui, nous rendons hommage à la résilience des
Today we honor the resilience of residential school survivors.
We honor the resilience of survivors who continue to bravely share their stories so that we may learn. In their stories, there is unspeakable pain, but there is also tremendous courage and determination to emerge into healing and light. I am deeply inspired by the stories of the survivors who have overcome so much to be with us today, by the stories of broken families gradually rebuilding their bonds, their communities, and their identities, by the stories of the survivors disconnected from essential services because their past traumas made them fear and mistrust teachers and doctors. Tomorrow, we will stand under the survivors' flag here on Parliament Hill to honor these courageous individuals. Despite the atrocities they endured, survivors are reaching out to Canadians. They want all of Canada to learn from these hard lessons so they will never be repeated. But the flags and symbols are not enough. Uvatinik apersorea harata ilunata, katutilugu katutigilugutanna, ulumi katingautigiabut, piunik samay sivunit sa siorea harata. Nous faisons des progrès.
We are making progress.
More attention being given to learning about Canada's true history. We are paving the way to economic, education, and health reconciliation. First Nations, Inuit, and Métis voices are being more and more heard and valued, and I greatly appreciated the Indigenous languages that were spoken today. We still have much work to do, but I feel increasingly hopeful as I travel across the country. There is a sense that as a country, we must work together and to give equality to each and every one of us. Aujourd'hui, j'invite toute la population
Today,
canadienne
I'm asking all the Canadian population
des survivants
to recognize these survivors and their communities, and to ally with them.
knowledge and help reconcile our history. You can speak out against discrimination when you see it. Nuna hakasi mayuit pichutito hanginik ikayogon na pusi tamanna piusugasi mayanga unikkausuri hattalugu ammalu namanangitumik atukto halakpat uhak hataluta ilunata. Truth builds trust, and trust builds hope. Let's continue walking this path together. Nakuk me magalo ilunasi. Merci. Thank you.
Hi, Mary Simon, ki Peak Square winoche. XP, ki taisini mat, kagi it sahu chego he, takam gwa, ni soki gwa ya, ki spine wa, wisaka suwa ki mansaka te wa, egwa, ki pakabahe wa, ki spend apachi to, o Peak Square winwa maga, kia pet, kia patalwa, Peak Square wina, egwa, megwat, ekakwe, pasekuna mek ki Peak Square winwa. Jackie Pizendewatch is a residential school survivor. Ki paspiu ektoche. She was taken away at 7 years old and sent to Cadora, Egiawas Sitesa. She then attended day school in Kanawaki, Quebec. Both of these schools are over 2,000 kilometers apart.
Sans notre vérité, nous ne pouvons pas parvenir à la réconciliation.
Without our truth, we cannot reach reconciliation.
Please welcome Jackie Pizendewatch.
Oui. Ik ben Jibin Joan Dicker, Jacqueline Côté, Dishnakos. Really, my name is Jackie Pizendewatch. The government changed our name to Côté. I went to St. Mary's Residential School, and these are my brothers, my sister. 6 of us were taken away to residential school, and the only ones that were left was my mother and my father. So you could imagine how empty the house must have been. When they came to pick us up, they bought us new clothes. We looked good. We never had nice clothes like that. And they promised my mother and father that we would get a good education. Of course, who wouldn't want that for their child? So we were put on a train, and we went to Kenora, and that's near Winnipeg. That's how far we had to go to school. And when we got there, they stripped us. They took all those nice clothes that they bought. They were lying. They were liars. According to them, we were dirty Indians. They cut our hair. They throw us in the bathtub because wash the Indianness out of us, scrubbing us. It didn't work. They wanted to kill the Indian and the child. The little kids that went to school, me, 7 years old, my brother, 4 years old, Eddie, my sister Margaret, 6 of us went, and there was a lot of abuse, physical, sexual. This is my opinion. When we got there, they had open arms to invite us in. Come on in. Because they were a bunch of pedophiles. That's what they were. They were a bunch of pedophiles, and they had 6 of us lined up, and other people from other communities. They had control of us, and that was their day. We made their day, but not realizing what kind of day we gave them. They controlled us. At night, they would visit us in the rooms where we slept in cots. Cots were lined up like that. And my sister Margaret, she was beside me, and I don't remember her at all. That's how much it affected me. I don't remember her. I don't even remember talking because we weren't allowed to talk our Nishnabemwin. Chian Metagzian, Nishnabemwin. Yipaktego pitch Nishnabien. Kangin the tossing Gertruine. Pitch Kabiwe young. When we went home, we still had our language because we went home just for the summer and then they'd pick us up again. And my brother Eddie, that's why he learned to lie. Because they used to take us to go to confession. And he told the truth in there, what was happening with him. And the priest or whoever it was went to report it to the other people that were taking care of us, and he got a beating. And that's where he learned to lie. And that was run by priests and nuns. I'm not going to pity anybody, not them anyways. They hid behind their robes, their black robes. That's where they were hiding. They were pretending to be working for the Creator or God or whatever you want to call him. They weren't working for him. They were working for Majimanido, the devil. And that's where we learned about the devil. We never knew about devil. And the food they fed us, you always wanted to eat. You'd see the dinner table of the nuns, bananas, oranges, apples, and we craved for that, but we were only allowed to look at it. And when we left home, we were rich. We didn't have material things, but we were very rich because we were able to eat partridge, moose meat, deer meat, beaver meat, everything. My mother used to make homemade bread. We lost all that. But we were very rich with love. It didn't cost anything. Love is free. And that's where we were very rich with love. And when I look at those little slippers there, I gotta quit talking. I have to say one more thing. Those little slippers there, it friggin' bothers me. And they said, you gotta learn to forgive. I can't forgive. I can't forgive until they bring all those kids home where they belong, with their parents. There's no forgiving, not for me. I can't forgive. Because that's where I learned being taken care of priests and nuns. Me and him, the Creator, and I teach that to this is my granddaughter. I teach them to nobody in between them. Just you and the Creator, and you're never going to go wrong. Don't go confess to some other man or a woman. You don't need a messenger. I'm going over. You don't need a messenger because you're going to be sure that he's going to hear you. You don't need someone to go there and pass your message. You can do it yourself because the Creator gave us our own minds and we're going to use it. Miigwech for listening. I have to go. My time is up. And I have a hard time to get off the stage when I start. Thank you.
Hakwe miuiche to. Mache paino che. Tapwe wen. Mache paino che. Ekwa uta. Ki Chiefmoon. Ki paspeo che o he. E ka koe mas kami to piks koe win. Maga. Aga ma pachito. Anuts. We mam skutam. Utapo e win e kwa. We a pachita o piks koe win. E ogo. Kas kite we asa ta piks koe win.
Please welcome Kate Chiefmoon.
Okay, next up, wow, okay. Kits, Kana eksamasın falan okşayıcı koy. Kısıcı koy, kaksana tatup, mahksanatsı, utkoynatsı, istukisuka semikısıcı koy. Phyllis Webster, manist koyit. Iki seminit sitapi. Mahkumanistua taus. Aapisto tuoki itse puuttuuki ki päätäpieksenon ki tumeitaksinon. Ihsitsi niin sitä piipukäiksi mahkitsitsini katu suai. Maanesika muuta katu puai. I putpua estsi ki itse matsku thajueksa. I missä kuunuaja. Sir John McDonald. Sihka. Maksi tisopas niin sitapi. Pukeeks. Ei tuutse piahkaa. I täsklimaskypis. I täks piaja. Puuttukanuas. Ei piahkaa. I tuanstaja. Ki maatat sitä piikuan ispaa. Niin teiksi piukuksi maatat sitä piitäkspaa. Ne kuupuksin. I kuututa maa pia. Ahkomanista waavat taus. Ahsoomat kahsuusi. Se sapin skuutsi. Niin sitä pi maatajaksista paatu kitauksin. Kaakumanista ässäskis matoiskoi ke kaakumanista vaavakois nettai. Net tuutuhpinnaan nahkitsitsine katu sinnaan Canada. Naan stotoitsikäis pinnaan. Niin nyt sinnaan ohkuunuis sinnaan apamia piikueks. Anjai.
The interpreter apologizes. The speaker is speaking in Blackfoot.
Ich bin päätä piopia. Awakammokia, mattautuitsikakia, ihpsuupia. Istukana pispih, mut sitä aukaksi mahpuai. Aukaksi maaks Supreme Court of Canada. Anni Doctrine of Discovery. Terra nullius. Canada. Maata khutsisida piwaaksa maat pitsewa akakse maanistsi. Kenishk Bering Strait theory Krista pi. Maata nistsewaatiks. Aapisto toke itse puutuke annoom kitauaksinnoon. Canada is siitä sopatsi niitä setapi. Ikä muussa tuumia kitskahkuu minnuun. In Tokia ne. Itse puuttuut, niin sitä piskahkoist, in nässu kaksi maanistsi. Itse sikaatstuumia, naatua pipäätä piiksi. Itse kaneeta pipuuttuut, itäskelimaatskiupistsi. Naatuja piikueks. Natua pakieks, stamatso kia kanesikapi, ki istikanapi, kanekisikus, nito kamanisto pinan sukapi, kanetapia maksukapis kristikoi. Kristikoi ihsiskatup, National Truth and Reconciliation Day. Akutsi statup, Canada, maksapuhsuai in nestu kaksimanisi ki maksukuteit kakkisa. Ki akitsinopos, mo otsito kaksimahwa. Nekshokwa. Thank you for listening to me.
Merci, Kate, d'avoir partagé ton
Thank you, Keith, for having shared your story.
From the Kluane First Nation to perform We're Still Here. This is Diyet and the Love Soldiers.
Zenu Shokwathan Dachwan. Ainji Tashanili. Nanini Ka. Ak Anzenu. Da Dan Kei Show You. Nanaje Koran. Ijan Shi. We're still here. Ket Ang Ezenu Show Kwathan. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Get donkey zenu, show quite a thou, hey, hey. Hey, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Get donkey zenu, show quite a thou, hey, hey. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Get donkey zenu, show quite a thou. They keep trying to take our flowers, replace them with guns. No one's going to take my heart. That's a battle I've already won. You can run, you can hide. What good will that do us? At least we know we tried. At the end of the night, got nowhere to go, stuck on this ball. We're out of control, but we're still here. So raise your voice tonight to life. Tomorrow we'll try to do what's right. We're still here. So many words are flying at us, claiming to be the best. But words don't carry weight when you don't know who to trust. Everyone knows, everyone sees. Truth is but a small part of what you want to believe. At the end of the night, got nowhere to go, stuck on this ball. We're out of control, but we're still here. So raise your drink tonight to life. Tomorrow we'll try to do what's right. We're still here. And we got tomorrow. We'll live for a brighter day. Yeah, we got tomorrow. We'll live for a brighter day. So many starting lines and battle cries, giving everything we got. There's no joy in the race to be everything you're not. But in the sweetest dreams, you're not alone. So we keep searching for a place that garden grows. At the end of the night, got nowhere to go, stuck on this ball. We're out of control, we're still here. So raise your voice tonight to life. Tomorrow we'll try to do what's right. We're still here. And we got tomorrow. We'll live for a brighter day. Yeah, we got tomorrow. We'll live for a brighter day. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Got donkeys and you show quite a down, hey. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Got donkeys and you show quite a down, hey. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Get donkeys and you show quite a down, hey. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey. Get donkeys and you show quite a down, hey. Shouting line, sheesh.
C'était Diyet and the Love Soldiers.
And that was Diyet and the Love Soldiers. Thank you for that fantastic performance.
De nombreuses personnes ont travaillé.
Many people worked very hard to create the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Nous en sommes aujourd'hui
And now
à la 4e.
we're in the 4th year,
Rendant hommage à
recognizing all the beautiful survivors,
aux enfants
the children who never made it home,
et à ceux qui luttent
and those who are still fighting today to survive the colonial and intergenerational impacts
de ces soi-disant.
of these so-called schools.
Hawaii gua, kawi pig squid vista, equipa speed. Laurie McDonald kito tewe gua, kipa spito tam. Ermineskin Residential School, SP, 1963. He graduated from university with a Bachelor of Education, specializing in children with developmental issues. After teaching for 27 years in various schools across Canada, Laurie focused on the protection of children through his work with various child welfare services. Ekta kagik snamuit eksnamuat kutagag awasa kanoe magic pokwite. Laurie retired to Kipuna Toskeo in 2019 and returned home to Inuk Cree Nation, Maskwati Si Kioko. He is inspired by his people in Maskwati Si and marvel at their resilience and will continue to exercise and use his gifts wherever needed.
Tanse! Wow, look at those beautiful faces out there. Nia Niskot, the wind. I am so grateful to be here in this beautiful territory. And how does one follow that beautiful voice that was before me? Today we've had the opportunity to hear a lot of beautiful stories and saw a lot of resiliency. Having this young lady come before me eases that pain sometimes because I know we're on the right path. I am grateful to the Creator for being able to come walk on this earth one more day. I have been an educator and a child protection worker for many, many, many years. And at a tender age of 11, I left my community, never to return home until I was at age 70. So what does that tell us? There are many people like me out there that go to these institutions and never return home. Look out there. What you see out there is a lot of hurting souls. You may classify them as people that live on the Skid Row. Remember, they have a story. Listen to them. For me, I'm an open book. I am two-spirited and a proud and traditional two-spirited person. However, when you are in these institutions, which they call schools, these traditional ways are not respected. And they certainly tell you they're not acceptable. And as such, people like me, children, and in those days, children did not matter. You become prey and you become a victim. Granted, all my peers that went to these schools suffered those abuses of physical harm, mental harm, neglect, sexual abuse. We did to some degree. But I stand in front of you to tell you this. Our abuse was profound. You vision yourself as being whoever you want to be. I couldn't be that flighty little person that I grew up to be and accepting things that I didn't want to hunt. I'd rather pick berries with my sisters. Couldn't do that because it was just not acceptable. As such, in the spirit of reconciliation, I tell you all out there, for those of you that are struggling with identity and identity issues and are not able to say, hey, no como nimo sen, I am two-spirited. Say it. There are no closets in our teepees. Just be awesome and take your rightful place in that circle. That's where you belong. This being who we are is a gift, and a gift that no one's going to take away again. For the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of sitting on the Survival Circle for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. And as a member, I hope to ensure that our stories are relevant and informative so that history will never be repeated again. In our traditional ways, regardless of which nation we come from, your voice matters. So today, I look at this beautiful, beautiful sea of orange. And what do those shirts say? Every child matters. Hi, hi, Ermineskin.
Hi, Laurie McDonald. Musta ka kipix ko ko matawon. Well, this has been an amazing day, don't you think, Danielle?
Oui, c'est tellement émouvant et stimulant.
Yes, it was quite empowering and moving. Let's carry on.
De la colonie de la Rivière Rouge. Il y a un survivant des
Is a Muti Mishif, a descendant from the Red River settlement and a resident school survivor. He's worked as spiritual caregiver and elder for over 20 years in the Manitoba justice system, as well as at the Métis Child and Family Services. Brian offers culturally relevant care and therapy to Métis, First Nations, and Inuit children, youth, and families.
Brian a surmonté de nombreux.
He's also one of 71 selected leaders of the world who went on a pilgrimage in France. And he continues to move forward and serve others.
Allô, bonjour, Tanzine. Nishkasun Brian Norman. Puis j'ai c'était tout été mitonné à Wickelcheck. Nipachima, chic, qui jette un chef, Métis descendant au chi de rouge la rivière. On pêche un village. Puis on les savait pieds au chez donc il était quand il était des écoles et sur celui-là c'est un marion en Canada à Canada. Adu Krishna Muna Muviate Transition Keshia Munia Nom Ietrama Keshiama Mun Mechef. Aweke Ça faisait puis un garçon envoyé à nous à Zate. Il a la talent créateur. Non. À nous chenonner que chez Moses a push a moved succour chipastic. En Rupi, a spiritual caregiver, knowledge keeper, P. Elder, Headley Correctional Center. Omajit vaincu chi pasquisat pap Saint Charles et l'école. Ayant eu son bien quitté mamie sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, culturally. I wish he could learn l'école. Kishi, Tashni, Kashima, Lakum, Mechif Lang. Et Kashi, Shishana, je suis pas un sauvage qui a franche puis anglais. Chacun le temps en métoni, Mechif Lang. On paquetait un grand droit, sutra. Puis la mère qui c'est une vache d'école. Puis là, après, je termine quitter ma siawa dans typiquement chemin ma. Foudané, non, avec sauté, cachené, j'ai braille, puis j'ai braille, tous les jours, j'ai pensé pour ça. Il fait mal de mon cœur. L'école est important pour un port, ni ça tout, tamik, Awitninaki institution is Nakwan Ota Nita Iti a visit quoi Ota dans Canada. Puis j'ai vu mon coup puisque quoi mis en Kishana Maslu en Keishu Kun. Je veux dire, c'est merci pour la journée, pour le couche cassier, puis c'est comme marcher avant un voyage, la journée en tout de vraie reconciliation. Merci, Miigwech. Je t'aime avec tout mon cœur. Oh oh.
I love you.
From the Wanero First Nation in Saskatchewan, please welcome the activist, the actor, the singer, the legendary Tom Jackson. Accompanied by dancers Jera Wolf and Madison Noon.
I was going to come out today and ask you how you're doing, but I decided that I'm going to come out here and tell you how I'm doing. I'm awesome. And you know why? Because today we're going to change the world. If you'd like to see a better world, say aye. Okay, some of you would. If you'd like to see a better world, say aye. If you'd like to see a better world, say love. In her eyes, we will always be equals. One blue drop in her forest rain. Hear her voice in the cry of the eagles, singing love is going to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. We'll sail the 7 seas and find a new direction. Thirsty tears we will wash away. There are thorns in the crown of perfection, but love is going to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. There will always be rainbows. There will always be a better day. I believe there is a kingdom in tomorrow, and a child of love will lead the way. The world's future is in our hands. It is our home and our native land. We all need to understand we all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way.
Merci. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Earl.
It has been a delight hosting. Earl, it has been a delight hosting, remembering the children with you. Et à vous, notre public ici à Ottawa, merci beaucoup.
And to you, our public here in Ottawa, thank you for having honored the survival by taking the time to join us here today.
And thank you, Danielle, for being such a great co-host. Gawin ka mo check minoge gawini mi kagini mi to check oke kapesitos kage gomano kagi sagag tato gi sagao umaka kai ka gesia kai ka wan gesia no ago magan teka ka me mo ag mina kai pume kasagi to ag mina mamo ka matuon ne ogo. Remember on this day and every day tato gi sagao, without truth we cannot have reconciliation kasi ka tek no ako makantik. Ekose petamag ektega wigiwe ektega utspasiko ektega admiosik ektegam skawana wow asemina msoats mina ketatawe kitom na hepay go tawasakam kepe ay tutena no sagito kakyo eksamaga petamag.
And as the applause finishes and the drums are quiet, that was the National Commemorative Gathering entitled Remembering the Children, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. I'm Adrienne Arsenault, and here with me watching, journalist, author, producer, Tanya Talaga. Tanya, I know that throughout that whole ceremony, you and I were both sitting here writing notes, and I'm willing to bet there's some of the same notes. You know, to me, it was astonishingly beautiful, wrenching, poignant, the way the sun was streaming in on the sides of the speakers, the clouds of sage. There were tears, there was laughter, and there was a real sense of togetherness. And that's just for me, someone looking on. I'm wondering about you, because this is so very personal to you. What did you take from this?
It feels like ceremony, and it was for us. The drum opened, the drum closed, and we saw so many of our sacred items there on that stage. The Eagle Staff, we were gathering. We had come together as a people, and you know, my heart always catches when I see the red banner. 4,000 names. Stephanie Scott, the executive director of the NCTR, that's what she told us. It's remarkable to see, and every time I see it, I think of my family, and my family's names are on the banner. Samuel Skeletor, Thomas Skeletor, Doris Carpenter. It's heart-wrenching to see. Those are the words you used, yes. But then you also saw here the joy, the laughter, the smell of sage, right? It was everything we are, all wrapped up into one.
You know, when you talk about the registry, the red banner, I have this feeling that this will be as embedded a symbol in the psyche in this country as so many others that have come to represent the good, the bad, the hard. And it was fascinating to hear that 4,000 names, but there are 400 more just this year. They know they have to put on that banner.
Exactly, exactly. And we know we have so many more to find. And that's why what Stephanie Scott was also saying was so very important. We shouldn't have to beg for funding in order to find our relations. We have to find our children. We have to say their names. We have to bring them home. And as she said, we're not going to rest until that happens.
And that is a moment that got some of the most substantial applause of the day. So Tanya, thank you. Stay tight. We do want to remind you, obviously for anyone affected by residential schools, finding today particularly difficult. Of course there is help. The 24-hour National Indian Residential School Crisis Line can be reached at 1-866-925-4419. So as we've mentioned a few times, this is also Orange Shirt Day. This is a movement sparked by one woman's story of having her brand new orange shirt she was so proud of and her sense of self-worth stripped away when she attended the St. Joseph's Mission Residential School near Williams Lake, BC. So that woman is Phyllis Webstad. She is standing by now in Nunavut with the CBC's Juanita Taylor.
I'm in Kugluktuk, Nunavut, in Canada's most western Arctic community, and I'm here with Phyllis Webstad. She is widely known across the country for your story about your residential school experience. So first of all, Phyllis, thank you so much for joining us today here in Kugluktuk.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So going back to your story, you were only 6 years old when you went to residential school, and that day you were wearing an orange shirt given to you by your grandmother, which was taken from you on that day. So that has led to a huge movement across Canada. 11 years later, you're here in Kugluktuk and sharing your story with people here. Where do you see things now compared to what it was 11 years ago when it comes to the Orange Shirt Day movement?
Well, originally it was for the Caribou-Chilcotin area of Williams Lake, for the schools, for the teachers and the students to learn and to keep the conversation happening. I never dreamt that when I said yes to Orange Shirt Day, that it would be what it is, and it hit social media and just has a life of its own. And I know the ancestors are behind it and the children as well.
And how do you see things today when it comes to, talking to the thousands of Canadians that you've talked to over the years? What is the message you are bringing here to Courloochtoq today?
Today is a day of remembrance and healing. Orange Shirt Day is a day to honor survivors and their families and to remember those that never made it home and to have conversation. Today we will be hearing from survivors in this area. I look forward to that, and maybe from that will come a little bit of healing.
And of course, a lot of Nunavut from across, of course, a lot of Inuit, across Nunavut also attended residential schools. So why was it important for you to come here?
I've been traveling all across the country for years now, and I've never been this far north, and I've always wanted to come and check it out. And so I'm here meeting people, and I look forward to meeting some of the survivors. I've met a couple already and talked with them. But today there will be more survivors telling their truths, and I just look forward to giving them a big hug.
And of course, the event also includes throat singing, drum dancing, a community feast. What are you looking forward to the most today?
Yeah, well, all of it, really. Just maybe trying something that I haven't tried before. Like food-wise.
Country food, yeah. Some caribou is going to be on the menu, and fish,
I've never
and
had
Arctic
that,
char.
so just looking forward to the whole experience today. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else today than here. It's been in the planning for a couple of years, and here it is.
Well, Phyllis, all the best today, and of course, moving forward on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, of course, in conjunction with Orange Shirt Day. And I know a lot of people here in Courloochtoq are very happy to have you here. So thank you so much for chatting with me today, and I look forward to seeing the events alongside you today. So thank you so much. Thanks.
That was CBC senior correspondent in the North, Juanita Taylor, with, of course, the great Phyllis Webstad in Nunavut. So let's head back out to Brett Forrester of CBC Indigenous, who is also here with us on the Hill. Brett?
Thanks, Adrienne. Well, you may be able to see behind me the sea of orange has started to dissipate. We were gathered right here in the middle of the parliamentary precinct, and there's some symbolism to that, right? These are the buildings where the architects of residential schools came up with this policy. And if those architects had their way, the languages we just heard on stage wouldn't be here anymore today. So for some reaction for what we just heard, I want to bring in Savannah McGregor, Grand Chief of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation Tribal Council. You were there in the front row, sitting with the other dignitaries. Maybe just walk us through what you thought of the ceremony today.
It's a lot to take in, and just the sea and wave of emotions that encapsulates the realities of who we are and all the different feelings that actually exist out there, especially here we are commemorating residential schools and the survivors, and just trying to digest all the injustices because they're undigestible, but also we have to still keep lobbying and support our survivors and the intergenerational survivors. So trying to figure that out while we're right here and we're being loud and proud, and it's tough because we want to see immediate results and change and further truth and reconciliation calls to action to all be implemented. But here we are still moving forward, but at a slower pace than I myself and everybody is very uncomfortable with.
Well, we heard the Governor General during her speech indicate that to really implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, it's going to take some difficult decisions, and there's quite a few comments about the pace of change. These days are important, but they're ultimately symbolic. So what would that action look like to speed this up in your view?
Well, in regards for the calls to action, it would just be so wonderful for the survivors to actually see them be implemented before they pass on, and then leave the work that they've inherited through their life experiences be led by the next generation and so forth. With the uncertainty of everything that the future is and holds, we can't lose faith, and we just have to keep up with the momentum and with the pressure.
It was a powerful ceremony. It's an emotional day. Maybe we can conclude on that note. What does this day mean for you on a personal level?
As an intergenerational survivor myself, and just to be with survivors who have led the charge and led the way for us, it fills my heart and it breaks it at the same time, but their hope and what they wish for us helps lifts everybody's spirits so we can move beyond the hurt and pain and reclaim justice and reclaim our jurisdiction and be who we are.
A powerful sentiment. Grand Chief Savannah Gregor, I really want to thank you for sharing your insights with us today. Adrienne, back to you.
Brett, thanks to you and the Grand Chief from us. So, commemorative events are happening today in communities coast to coast to coast. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in Inuk in the Northwest Territories. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre took part this morning in an acknowledgement ceremony here in Ottawa. And NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is attending events commemorating this day in Thunder Bay. So we asked students and educators at the Siamthet School in Tsleil-Waututh Nation in BC about how they thought ways to mark National Day for Truth and Reconciliation should be considered. And here's what they told us.
So I just encourage people to learn more about the nations whose unceded land they are upon.
I feel like to wear orange is because you give support to the ones who survived, the ones that did not survive, the ones who are still here.
Truth and reconciliation isn't the work of Indigenous people. We've been doing that work. We've been doing it since day one. It's really important for non-Indigenous people to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
People should find events where the local communities, Indigenous communities are hosting some sort of event and go to it and participate and not be afraid to participate.
We try to learn about it and try to help others that had to go through it and were hurt. Just try to make the world better.
To be kind. We don't know what everybody else is going through.
You don't know what everybody else is going through, just trying to make it better. Just as this day, was created in response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, so too was a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. 5 years ago, it released its final report calling the crisis a genocide, laying out 231 recommendations for governments, for police, healthcare providers, media, and other groups, all aimed at protecting Indigenous women and girls from going missing or being murdered. The chief commissioner of that inquiry was Marion Buller, who joins me now from Victoria. Ms. Buller, thank you for making time for us. This year marked 5 years since you released that final report of the National Inquiry. Would you say there's been progress 5 years on, and how might you measure it?
Well, good afternoon from the traditional territory of the Lekwungen peoples, more specifically the Esquimalt and Songhees people. Good afternoon. What would I say about the past 5 years? What hasn't happened? Not much. The silence is deafening. Not satisfied, not good enough.
That's very clear. Looking on, I think sometimes people think about Manitoba, where there are plans to move ahead in searching the landfill for the remains of 2 Indigenous women. I think federally, Ottawa has committed more than, I think, $2 billion to respond to the inquiry's calls for justice. But I don't know where the meter should be on that. What does that or will that likely mean, do you believe?
Well, I don't think it's going to mean anything until we start getting some transparency about policy changes, law changes from all levels of government. The lack of transparency with respect to the implementation of the calls for justice and the calls to action is astounding and simply not good enough. Canadians, Indigenous or non-Indigenous, should be outraged at the lack of transparency and the lack of reporting to the public about implementation.
Is that the biggest gap for you, that lack of transparency and reporting, or is there another one that is throbbing and making you angry?
Oh, there's several of them. To be honest, I don't know where to start. But I think, how can you measure change? How can you measure the work that needs to be done until you have some reporting about what has been done and what the plans are for moving forward? I mean, we're living in a vacuum.
I know you're watching and listening today, and I'm wondering, as you think about it, what struck you and what will stay with you?
Oh, I think the sea of orange shirts struck me first and foremost. The visual images, the sounds of our languages and our customs and our culture. So I think that stays with me, and I hope that politicians who are watching saw a sea of voters who want change.
Mm-hmm. Is there someone you think about on this day? Someone in particular?
Oh, too many. I've had the privilege of working with elders in court, in First Nations court and elsewhere at the National Inquiry, of course. So many of them were survivors and brave, wonderful people who just don't give up.
Don't give up. Thank you very much, Marion. That's the former Chief Commissioner of the MMIWG Inquiry, Marion Buller. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So we'd like to take you now to a commemorations event happening right now at the University of British Columbia. Georgie Smythe is there, where, Georgie, I gather it's an intergenerational march that is happening.
Yeah, we've got hundreds of people down here. You might be able to see them behind me. They've begun that march. And as you say, this march is really about highlighting the legacy of residential schools, not only for the direct survivors, but their children and their children's children, and how that can impact communities decades on. I've got Jeremy Jones standing next to me. He works in this space. He's also got his own personal experiences. Jeremy, why do you think it's important to highlight that?
I think it's important to highlight the histories and legacies of Indian residential school because it's a part of our history. And not only is it a part of our history, it's a part of living memory. We still have survivors, and some who are not that old, as the last residential school closed in the 90s. So this is not a forgotten history. This is in our lived memory. And as an intergenerational survivor, both of my parents attended the Indian residential school, and that I see how my father navigates the world with his what he was brought up in, and still finds ways to center joy and healing.
We've been listening to a lot of stories in the ceremony, and many hundreds of people behind us walking. They're on that march now. What would you like them to be reflecting on in that time?
I think something that I personally have been reflecting on, and I would love to invite folks to look at, is we've heard a lot about the legacy of intergenerational trauma that these schools have bestowed upon my people, but I also would like to center and bring into the idea of our consciousness of intergenerational healing, of people like my father who found healing when there was no funding for that. And it is something that my work at the Indian Residential School Survivors Society has just are about to launch a podcast where young people interview survivors about what does intergenerational healing look like, sound like, and feel like, called Woven Spirit. And I'm really proud of the work that the kids have done to bring that story forward about how do we as intergenerational survivors hold space and make healing our own, because we have to continue healing, and that's something that we have to really center and bring into our practices.
Yeah. So really messages of healing, of unity in Vancouver today. Adrienne?
Thanks to you and Jeremy as well. So I'd like to introduce you to someone very special here who's joined us on set. Tom Jackson, we heard you sing. We have watched you for so long, listened to you. I know you have done everything, but it's the first time you performed at this event, and I just wonder what was swimming inside for you.
Love. I heard it said several times today, but it's not the word, it's the verb. I watched it play itself out over the last 24 hours. And it's very inspiring to understand that you can replace toxic tricksters with love.
This is right on the surface for you, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, I was, watching the names go by.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
But that said, we have the opportunity now to create an example of reconciliation. We don't have to wait for people to bring it to us. We can bring it to you. I don't mean you personally, but maybe I do.
Maybe, sure.
Right? We have the opportunity now to demonstrate what reconciliation is. And there are many ways to do that, but we have to get into community, into your community, into my community, into the world community, and do something that is significant enough to help people stop thinking negatively. It's to sing, to laugh, to learn, to leap, and to practice the verb.
It's a way, I hear people sometimes talking about remembrance, often in the context of Remembrance Day, that it's a verb. It demands action. It's not enough to think it.
Yeah. If you were to ask me, what am I doing now? Well, my next job is to try and figure out how to inspire change that creates peace. I sent a note somewhere about this northern corridor called Nistanon, of which I'm part of this project. If we build this corridor across the north, it will not only change the entire system as it relates to the First Nation people, it'll give us economic independence, but it'll also create a corridor that goes into, in and around Ukraine and Russia. If we even just say we're doing it, it will impact that war. It'll change the war, it'll change our relationship with the United States, it'll change our relationship with NATO, and it'll make a big difference. And I say it's a First Nation solution to an all-nation problem.
Is that the sort of thing that gives you hope? Because I heard you talk about hope and promise and lifting people. Is that the sort of thing that gives you hope?
Yeah, it's exactly that. And there are other things, but I don't want to be a watch salesman and say, would you want to buy a watch? I got a bunch of watches here, right?
Out there right now.
We have to make sure that our leadership has the kind of will to create the change. And I like where Mr. Poilievre is, and I like where Mr. Trudeau is. And I would encourage a conversation with them. I would love to have that conversation with both of them. Not that I'm smarter than them.
Right.
But I know a little bit more about healing, happiness, wellness. Let me ask you this. Do you need something? Do you need help? Because let me tell you, if you need help, you only need to ask me.
Right.
I don't care what the answer is. I can promise you that I can help you. I build houses, but I don't know the difference between a screw and a nail.
Right. But you can facilitate.
I am just old enough now to be annoying about everything.
Oh, great.
I know something about everything on the planet, just enough to be annoying.
Well, you've never been annoying to us. You aren't today. I'm thrilled to finally meet you and listen to you, and I hope you're okay.
I'm very good.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, indeed. That's Tom Jackson, everybody. So while we're here, let's go back out to Brett Forrester for some final thoughts. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Adrienne. What really stood out to me were the calls to action from Indigenous leaders of all stripes here who spoke during the ceremony. It reminds me that when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission tabled its final report in 2015, they structured their original calls to action in a very deliberate way. The first batch of those recommendations, as former Commissioner Murray Sinclair has explained, were aimed at fixing the child welfare system and reducing the amount of kids in state custody. At that time, there were more children in the child welfare system, more Indigenous children in the child welfare system than there were at the height of the residential school system. So it's a reminder that even as we commemorate and remember all those children who didn't make it home from residential schools, many of those injustices still continue today. And so as we heard those calls to action, that's really what I'm left with, is just how far we still do have to climb on that hill of reconciliation.
Absolutely. Brett, thank
Adrienne,
you
back
for
to
your
you.
insights. Thank you for your insights, Brett, throughout this whole day. And Tanya, we started with you, like to finish with you. Your thoughts as we wrap up?
Today was absolutely beautiful. You know, it was a reminder of how far we need to go. That reconciliation, it's not on us, it's on non-Indigenous Canadians. More needs to be done. You heard that loud and clear. You saw the love. You saw the orange shirts. You heard from our people, our survivors. Keep listening. Fight denialism. Stand up and say that's not true when you hear someone say something off. We need all of Canada to be our allies. This is how we heal the heart of the nation.
And that's yes. And, you know, you and I were talking earlier about how the horrors here started with education.
That's right.
And the healing.
That's right.
Has to be rooted there.
Yes, you know what? Education got us into this mess. Education is going to get us out. We need to make sure all of our children are hearing the truth, are learning the truth in schools from coast to coast to coast. That is not negotiable. It has to happen.
Tanya Talaga, thank you very, very much for spending time with us.
Chimikwich.
Appreciate it. So as you've seen here, as you've heard here, reconciliation is absolutely a group effort. It's about reckoning with the difficult, and that's not a big enough word, legacy of residential schools, while also plotting a better path forward. Obviously, a lot of work to be done, a lot of calls to action and calls for justice yet unanswered. But as Murray Sinclair has said so often, education has to be the game changer. This day is pretty new on the calendar, just 4 years old. Understanding is still building, but it means that children are now growing up with these conversations. They're learning with everyone else, and in the not too distant future, they will be the ones leading this work of reconciliation. These conversations matter, and we have to hope that there's hope in these conversations. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. For all of us here at CBC News, thank you for joining us on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.